I'm taking the whole team and going independent. Being praised didn't feel bad. I'm so easily flattered. I found myself becoming more interested in Tom, wanting to talk more and maybe even more than that. I come to think so. It seemed Tom felt the same way and we matched perfectly. After the matchmaking event, we decided to go out for drinks together. It's so nice to be able to talk with you like this. Rachel, with a little alcohol, the mood between us became even better. The idea of this being a one-time thing was no longer an option. When should we go out next? Let me check my schedule. We naturally made plans for next time and parted ways for the day. After meeting a few more times, Tom asked me out. There was no reason to say no and I happily accepted. 2 years of dating later, Tom proposed. I was truly happy, thinking I was finally getting married. I accepted the proposal and we became husband and wife. The thought of a future with the man I loved, Tom, filled me with excitement. But later, I would come to regret accepting Tom's proposal. A hectic time of meeting each other's families, and our wedding came to an end. Tom's parents were as kind and reliable as he was. Your parents live that far away. If something happens, you can't rely on them quickly. Yes, that's true. When I mentioned my parents lived far away, they said, if you ever have trouble, come to us. We'll help however we can and just let us know. I was used to my parents being fair, but it wasn't without its worries. I was happy to hear the supportive words from my in-laws. Kind and dependable in-laws, and my beloved Tom. I felt surrounded by wonderful people. A few weeks into our marriage, life with Tom was as happy as I had imagined. Having quit my job to get married, I spent weekdays doing housework and waiting for Tom to come home. On weekends, we'd go out or just relax at home watching TV. Hey, I'm off tomorrow. Wanna go somewhere? Oh yes, let's go to the shopping mall. And maybe we can stop by the bookstore nearby. Planning our future outings with Tom was always fun. We didn't have children. Before getting married, we had discussed whether or not to have kids several times and ultimately decided against it. There were various concerns about having children, like my age, physical energy, and financial issues. But the main reason we chose not to was that we wanted to enjoy our lives, just the two of us. Seeing happy families with children at places like shopping malls or children's photos on my friends' social media did make me envious at times. However, I believed that nothing could. Then one day, something Tom said changed my life significantly. I've been thinking about starting my own business. He had mentioned it before we got married. Wait, start your own business? Of course, I was surprised when I first heard about his entrepreneurial aspirations. I wondered if it was really a good idea. Starting a business meant he would eventually leave his job. Would we okay in the future? Would it work out? What if it failed? All these questions and worries filled my head. Are you sure that's a good idea? Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while. I shared all my concerns with Tom. He seemed confident, talking about his business plan, goals, and future aspirations. He even showed me some documents he had prepared, and I could see his seriousness. I thought if he's this prepared, he'll probably succeed. And even if it didn't work out, I believed Tom would handle it well. I decided to support Tom's dream. What do you think about starting now? We've saved up a good amount. You know, it's better to start young. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. But with that, Tom began preparing for his startup. I decided to use the time I had previously spent on hobbies and rest to help with the business. It was all for Tom. His parents knew about his desire to start a business and came over to our house to help out. When he first said he wanted to start a business, you must have been surprised, right? He just dropped it on you out of nowhere. I was surprised. But he explained his goals and everything, so I thought it might be okay. Thank you for trusting our son, his mother said with a gentle smile. Spending more time with Tom's parents, I got to hear stories about him that I never knew in tales from their past. It turns out they used to run a business. Eventually, they had to close down due to financial troubles, but it was their story that sparked Tom's interest in entrepreneurship. We told him to give it up, but he wouldn't listen. We said, if you can take responsibility, then go ahead and try it. I had no idea about that. I hadn't known about this background, but it seemed like a very Tom-like reason to be interested in starting his own business. 2 months later, with all the preparations and applications complete, the business was up and running. It was an S&S consulting firm. As I didn't understand much about this world, I left the main operations to Tom. Instead, I took on all the administrative work, Tom's parents were probably curious about their son's business. They came over every few days to check on us and help out. Many people might find it unbelievable to see in-laws so often, but I was actually happy to spend time with them. They had become a significant support for me. 6 months into the business, things started to stabilize, and we even hired some part-time employees. I felt sorry about Tom's parents helping so much and offered to pay them, but they said, "We're just killing time. Don't worry about it." Before I knew it, a year had passed since we started the business. The performance was still going strong, and we expanded our team with more employees and part-timers. Everyone we hired was kind, and I was happy to work in such a pleasant environment. I found myself enjoying work more than in my previous job. Everything seemed to be going well, but there was one thing that had changed for the worse. It was Tom's behavior. "Wait, you're taking the day off from work again?" "Yes, sorry. I've got some stuff to handle." "Yeah, okay." Tom started missing work, saying he was sick or had errands. It's understandable to be sick occasionally, and errands can coincide with work once or twice, but when it happens frequently, it makes me wonder why he can't manage his schedule better. What could be so important that he needs to skip work? He always handles work-related tasks during work hours. The more I think about it, the more I wonder what Tom is secretly up to. Shrinkach, Rachel, I might be late or unable to come to work tomorrow because of some errands. Sorry about that. Sure to bet to next period. Although he apologizes, it feels like just lip service. If he truly felt sorry, I believe he could make some changes in his behavior. And question, I decided to gently bring up Tom's excessive absences. Time. Act awake. I know it's your company, but it is still a job. I'd really appreciate it if you could handle personal errands on your days off. Tom seemed surprised by my words. A question was, I'm sorry. I'll be more careful. Thanks. For after my talk, Tom began coming to work regularly again. It felt good to see him listening to my concerns, given his recent behavior. However, within a month, Tom was back to missing work, claiming to be sick or having errands. I doubted my single reminder would make a lasting impact. So I decided to talk to his parents. I truly need to talk about Tom. Just when work slowed down a bit, I approached his parents who were helping us out. Their surprise was evident. Tom's been doing that? I thought he might be out working. I had no idea he was skipping work. Exactly, even though it's his job. Being sick is one thing, and personal errands are understandable, but it seems like he's taking off a bit too much. I know. As I explained Tom's recent behavior, they became visibly angry. The next day, his parents confronted Tom. "Tom, we heard you've been missing work. How did you know that?" "Rachel talked to us." "What are you doing exactly?" "Remember, this is the business you started. Don't rely too much on others and take responsibility. We don't want you to end up like us, regretting it when it's too late." Tom seemed shocked and distant when his parents called him out. "Are you listening?" "Yeah, sorry, I'm listening. Just stop causing trouble for others. If you have a serious reason for being absent, you need to explain it in detail." "Got it." Tom reluctantly agreed to his father-in-law's words, seeming annoyed. I had never seen Tom like this before. As I stood there, puzzled looking at Tom, he asked me, sounding irritated, "What?" "Sorry, it's nothing." "All right." With that, I left the room. His parents, too, seemed to have never seen Tom behave this way, whispering to each other, "Could he be tired?" Recently, on days when Tom said he had errands and skipped work, he would always come home late at night. I was curious about what these errands were, but every time I tried to ask, he would evade the question. What is he hiding from me? That night, I felt bad about bringing it up, but decided to ask Tom directly. "Hey, what's been going on lately? Every time you say you have errands and skip work, you come home late. Are you hiding something from me? We're married, you don't have to hide things." I hoped he would open up, especially after what happened earlier in the day. But Tom just glared at me and said, "Rachel, it's none of your business. I don't need to tell you. This conversation is over, got it? Wait a minute. Just leave it. I'll make sure not to skip work anymore, okay? You're being too persistent." With that, he walked away from me. Persistent how? His words stung. It was the first time Tom had ever spoken to me so harshly. Well, I was in shock and felt that I could have looked at the situation a little longer. I also felt that it was his job and I wanted to make sure he was doing well. But now, if I bring it up again, he'll probably just call me persistent. I was at a loss for how to interact with Tom from now on. Since his parents talked to him, Tom's attitude towards me had changed drastically. He stopped making excuses and came to work, but he started looking at me with disdain. He ignored me or looked annoyed whenever I spoke to him, both at home and at work. "Hey Tom, about today's work. Don't ignore me. Did I do something wrong?" "It's nothing." What is Tom thinking? Could it be that Tom has come to dislike me? No matter how much I pondered, I couldn't find an answer. However, the day came when I understood what Tom had been thinking and what he'd been hiding from me. It sure is, on that day, Tom came home early from work, which was unusual for him. He seemed upbeat and refreshed. When I finished work and got home, I found Tom unusually sitting on the living room sofa. "That's rare," I said, as he had been cooped up in his room recently. Tom turned to me with a grin and said, "Oh, you're back. I have something to tell you." "What's going on?" Tom looked at me triumphantly and announced, "I'm taking all the employees and going independent." "What?" I couldn't understand what he was saying. But Tom, amused by my shock, continued, "Oh, and write this up too." He pulled out a completed divorce form from the table drawer. "I found a new woman. So write this, will you?" "Wait, what do you mean?" "Just what I said. She's way better than you. I'm really glad I met her." I was stunned. Independence, divorce, it was all too sudden. "Oh, anyway, make sure to submit this divorce form. See ya." And left the house, leaving me standing there, dumbfounded, in the silent room. In front of me was the completed divorce form. The sudden turn of events overwhelmed me, and I couldn't grasp the situation. What should I do now? What's the right action to take? I couldn't find any answers. But then, I thought of someone. His parents. They hadn't been at the company today, but they should be at home. With trembling hands, I took out my smartphone and called Tim's parents. "Hello." After a few rings, I heard my mother-in-law's kind voice, "Tom." I managed to say, tears welling up from a sense of relief as I heard her voice. "What's wrong?" It's about Tom." I somehow explained to my mother-in-law what Tom had said to me and the situation I was in now. "I don't know what to do. Just hold on a moment. Let me talk to father." My mother-in-law, sounding flustered, went to consult with my father-in-law. But quickly she came back and said, "Just wait at home for us. We'll come over and have a discussion together." "Really? Is that okay?" "Yes, of course. We'll be there soon." A few minutes later, my in-laws arrived. "Mom, that day. Are you okay?" "Rachel? I'm fine." But as soon as I saw them, I broke down in tears. I felt pathetic for being in such a situation. They hurriedly supported me and brought me to the living room. After a few minutes, I calmed down and explained everything in more detail than before. That Tom was having an affair. That on days he said he had errands and missed work, he always came home late. That he had left with the divorce papers, telling me to submit them, and that he had announced he was taking all the employees and going independent. I was so confused. My words came out in bits and pieces. My in-laws listened intently and nodded in understanding. But after I finished, they seemed stunned and speechless. Then my father-in-law said, "I'm truly sorry. Our son ends." My mother-in-law also apologized. "No, it's not something you two should apologize for." They bowed their heads in apology. I felt uncomfortable and quickly asked them to lift their heads. For the moment, I was relieved to have talked to my in-laws. Considering everything that had happened, I knew they would be on my side, but I was still unsure about what to do next. I needed to find out if Tom had approached all the employees about going independent, where he was now, and gather evidence of his affair. After the way Tom treated me and then thrust the divorce papers at me, I couldn't even think about rebuilding our relationship. Since Tom clearly wanted a divorce, I decided to go through with it, regardless of how the situation unfolded. Clearly, I wanted the divorce to be on the grounds of Tom's fault, and I expected to receive alimony. What should I do? As I muttered this to myself, my father-in-law, who was sitting across from me, spoke up. "Let's resolve this one step at a time. I'll look into Tom's situation, and Rachel, please handle the company matters." Although Tom has been talking about independence, the fact that none of the employees are stirring up suggests it might just be all talk. It's understood. So, I decided to divide and conquer with my in-laws. I wouldn't let Tom get away with saying it was all a joke. When Tom first announced the divorce and his intention to go independent, I was overwhelmed by a mix of emotions and confusions. But now things are different. I started preparing to bring Tom down to hell, fueled by my clear hatred for him. It's a month later, Tom was standing in front of me. I had gathered all the evidence and testimonies I could and summoned Tom to my in-laws' house. Initially, Tim continued his heartless remarks, but when I told him I would file for divorce if he showed up, he quickly changed his tune and agreed. The thought of him cluelessly showing up, not knowing what awaited him, was amusing to me. Not knowing what awaited him was amusing to me. So what do you want? I came because you called me. There's nothing to talk about, though. Where had the Tom before the business venture gone? It felt like I was in a bad dream. You've been doing whatever you wanted, haven't you? What do you mean by doing whatever I want? Explain yourself. Tom, crossing his legs, responded provocatively. Previously, I would have been at a loss for words, but not anymore. Having affairs, trying to go independent on your own. What? I told you that already. You're calling that doing whatever I want. And there's more. Stealing money and supplies, as I heard. I knew about the affairs and the talk of company independence. But as I dug deeper, I found out that Tom had been taking money from the company. When I brought up the money, Tom's face turned pale, and he visibly started to panic. What? Why would I need to do that? Are you crazy? And do you have proof? You're not just making this up to get back at me, are you? You think I'd lie about this now? If you think I'm lying because I don't want to divorce you, you're wrong. I'm going to divorce you. That's why I called you here today. Then show the proof now, Tom said, sounding desperate. So, I showed him the security camera footage just as he wished. Wait. Cameras? Why? You were absent from the company for a while, remember? I installed them then. I even consulted you about it, but you weren't listening. Actually, I had installed security cameras near the safe to enhance security. I couldn't just set them up without consulting Tom, so I asked him about it. He seemed distracted and just replied, yeah, sure, not really paying attention. But there was no doubt he had agreed, so I installed the cameras after consulting with the employees. The reason I knew Tom had been stealing money was because of those cameras. I could have just said I saw it on the cameras, but one of the employees, who Tom hadn't approached about joining his independent venture, had witnessed his suspicious behavior. This employee was an older part-timer who hadn't been asked to join Tom's new venture. You were going around asking people to join you in your independence, promising better conditions. Promising better conditions than now. Well, everyone refused. But to think the only person you didn't approach, the older part-timer, would tip us off? Is this some kind of joke? Angry Tom challenged me, and I showed him the security camera footage. I narrated it specially for him. See? You're stealing money here. Look. Oh, shut up. Tom responded, clearly unable to deny the evidence on the video. He looked dejected. What were you going to use it for, startup funds? He had been stealing from the company to fund his own startup. Unbelievable. I had no choice. What do you mean, no choice? Why couldn't you just continue the business as is? Because what? My father-in-law, who had been silent until now, clearly frustrated with Tom's evasive attitude, finally spoke up. Tom then started shaking and began to explain why he wanted to start his own business. It turns out it all started with an affair. The flirt was consulting for people like Tom who were starting their own businesses. As their relationship progressed, he began to think about starting a new business with her. Starting a business was harder than I thought. So why did you decide to start a new business? It doesn't make sense. I thought it would work out with her. It was just pitiful. She, a person who gives up so easily on difficult tasks, wouldn't succeed in a new venture. And to think he was stealing company funds for his independence. He might cause even bigger problems in the future. Were you going to see your affair partner when you said you had errands and didn't come to work? Right. I want to quickly demand alimony and have him out of my sight. Even my in-laws seem to have moved from anger to sheer disbelief. About the alimony for the affair? As soon as I brought up the topic of alimony, Tom, who had been looking dejected, suddenly lifted his head to look at me. Then he said something utterly too late. I'll break up with her. I'll drop a business venture. Let's start fresh, just the two of us. Start over. Was he serious? Was he sane? As I stood there stunned, Tom continued, come on, it'll be alright. I was stupid to talk about divorce. Let's go to various places together again. Make lots of happy memories. So, go away. However, my father-in-law, angered by Tom's words, slammed evidence of the affair onto the desk. How dare you even think of starting over after doing such things? This is what my father-in-law presented. Documents and photos from a private investigator detailing Tom's affair. There were photos of Tom and his mistress entering a hotel, walking arm in arm, looking happy, and a document meticulously detailing where and what Tom and his mistress were doing. There was no way he could deny it now. Why are such photos? Did you hire a detective? Yes, if she is to divorce and claim alimony, solid evidence was necessary. She never knows when she might retract your confession about the affair. Why are Dad and Mom on Rachel's side? You're a huge disappointment. You probably said, let's start over because you didn't want to pay alimony, right? What a pathetic son. I'm genuinely grateful that my in-laws are sensible people. As soon as Tom realized they weren't on his side, he slumped again. No matter what you do, my feelings for you will never return. With those final words, making it clear there would be no reconciliation. Tom had nothing left to say. Afterward, I pursued legal action against Tom and his affair partner for alimony. According to my lawyer, both were reluctant to pay, but eventually they begrudgingly agreed. It's unbelievable they would still resist at this point. Though Tom had shown a defeated demeanor during our discussion, his true colors were disappointing. A week after the divorce was finalized, Tom sent me a ridiculous email blaming me for his breakup with his affair partner, wondering what I was going to do about it. I decided to ignore him, but as he persistently sent more emails, I replied with a simple, "Stop being so persistent," and he stopped contacting me. Since then, there's been no word from him, but the alimony continues to be paid, so he must be managing somehow. Later, I heard from my in-laws that they had also cut ties with Tom. Now alone, having alienated his parents, wife, and affair partner. I hope Tom reflects on the terrible things he's done. I'm now leading the company, Tom, and I started acting as its representative, albeit in name only, relying heavily on the support of those around me. But my employees all believe in me, and their trust is both heartwarming and reassuring. And my former in-laws, now just strangers, still visit occasionally, concerned about my well-being. I'm surrounded by such warm-hearted people. Though grateful, I continue to strive for the company's expansion.